Hello guys, and welcome to episode 2 of our hero Rick's story. Rick goes to the Adventurers Guild as the preliminary test results are about to be announced. Elisa tells all the adventurers who participated in the tests that magic energy will be transferred to each exam ticket, and if it glows blue, the holder has passed the preliminary test. Those who pass will participate in the second test tomorrow, which is a simulated battle. Rick is nervous and scared that he might fail the test, eagerly waiting for his exam ticket to glow blue. Rionette encourages him, telling him that he will succeed, which comforts him a bit. However, she shocks him by saying that if he fails the test, his training will be tripled. Suddenly, his exam ticket starts glowing, changing colors between red and blue, but finally glows blue, and our hero Rick passes the preliminary test. He feels relieved after escaping the triple training hell. As he leaves the room with Rionette, a handsome adventurer approaches them and flirts with Rionette. He is the eldest son of the noble Dramat family, named Raster, and he wants to get to know Renee. Rick, the fool, tells Raster his name without being asked, to which Raster responds, "Who asked you for your name? I'm not interested in a dull middle-aged man," hurting Rick's feelings. Raster continues to flirt with Rionette, saying, "I've lost my heart in the depths of your eyes," and invites her to the castle in the northern lands, suggesting she become his second wife. Renee starts to get angry, so Rick intervenes to prevent the situation from worsening. Raster gets angry and doesn't want Rick to interfere. Rick lies, saying, "Don't you know she's my girlfriend? I won't let you flirt with her in front of me," to save from Rionette's anger. However, Raster, full of himself, doesn't understand the danger of his actions. Noticing Rick's exam ticket, he realizes that Rick is weak and an F-rank adventurer, leading him to laugh and mock Rick. Rick also underestimates him, thinking he is weak, but Raster reveals he is an A-rank adventurer and the examiner for the second test, showing his necklace as proof. Rick is shocked and unable to speak. Raster resumes flirting with Rionette, inviting her to dinner, but she hugs Rick to prove to the arrogant Raster that she is his girlfriend and refuses Raster's invitation. Feeling jealous of Rick, Raster tells him, "If I'm your examiner in the simulated battle, prepare well for what you'll see from me," and leaves, his heart filled with hatred towards our hero Rick. Rick starts hoping that fate doesn't pit him against this arrogant man. Rick apologizes to Renee for lying about her being his girlfriend, but she is happy instead, as he defended her and saved her from that embarrassing situation, making Rick feel shy. Later, Raster appears in the tavern, still angry at Rick. At that moment, his brothers arrive, crying and complaining about what Rick did to them in the first test. Raster gets angry at the person who bullied his brothers, but moments later realizes it was Rick whom he met in the morning. He asks Fred if he remembers the number of the examiner who bullied him, and Fred tells him he remembers it well. It seems Raster is plotting something against Rick. The next day, Rick goes to the Adventurers Guild to take the second test, scared he might meet Raster there. As Rick was walking inside the guild with Rionette, he was approached by a man named Lynx, who told him that he would be the examiner for the second test. Rick was overjoyed because it meant he wouldn't have to face Raster. Lynx would oversee all those with a number higher than 4,200 in the preliminary test. For the first time, Rick's high number worked to his advantage, saving him from facing Raster. Additionally, Lynx admired Rick's determination to not give up on his dream despite his age and wanted to become someone like him. Lynx himself had joined the Adventurers Guild at a somewhat older age, though not as old as Rick. Lynx had worked hard to reach rank B after nearly 20 years of effort. Rick looked up to Lynx for guidance in the simulated battle. However, Raster was hiding behind a wall and overheard their conversation. As Lynx was walking through the guild, expressing his admiration for Rick, the arrogant Raster appeared behind him and said, "You should feel honored to talk to a noble like me in private." Meanwhile, Rick was in a good mood, knowing he wouldn't face Raster. However, an announcement was made for those with numbers 4,200 and above, like Rick, that their examiner Lynx had suddenly fallen ill. Rick was shocked by this news, since he had just spoken to Lynx, and he seemed fine. With Lynx ill, Raster was assigned as their examiner for the second test. This was a disaster for Rick. As he now had to face the person he feared the most, Rionette informed Rick that Raster, along with Angelica and Fred and the adventurers who were with Rick, all said that Raster was a genius known as the Man of 1,000 Abilities. Raster was infamous for crushing any F-rank adventurer who crossed his path. The arrogant Raster enjoyed tormenting examinees who caught his attention every year. Our weak hero Rick was now entangled in a mess, and Raster was seen using 4th-level composite nature magic, freezing someone with his ice staff, when a guard called him to inform him of an important matter. Rick was extremely nervous, knowing he would face Raster, who hated him, and not knowing what to do to pass the test. Rick's abilities were very weak. He could only use 1st-level composite nature magic. He couldn't withdraw from the test either, as that would mean failing to join the Adventurers Guild and facing triple the training hell, which would be fatal. No matter what Rick did, his death seemed certain, making him cry over his rotten luck. At this point, Rionette lifted his spirits, saying, "I believe in you. You can pass the test and defeat the arrogant Raster. You've been capable of this since the day you decided to become an adventurer." Rick was somewhat motivated, shaking off his negative feelings, and his confidence began to return. Just then, a boy called out to him, covering his face, and told Rick that he was a wizard and would bring him good luck. Foolishly, Rick agreed to deal with this boy without thinking, especially since he didn't have to pay for the magic. He didn't realize he was falling into a trap. The wizard instructed Rick to sit on a chair, and Rionette noticed a magic circle on it. She tried to save Rick, but it was too late, and he disappeared from the spot. It turned out the wizard was Fred, who had succeeded in tricking Rick. Rionette was furious, smashing the wall behind Fred and grabbing him by his collar, demanding he tell her where Rick had been sent, or she would kill him. Fred initially thought she was just threatening him and refused to tell her. She cut his eyelash with her strength, saying, "If you don't tell me where Rick is, I'll gouge out your eye." Fred, terrified, told her he was weak in teleportation magic, so Rick couldn't have been sent far from the Adventurers Guild. And indeed, Rick appeared behind the guild, confused about how he got there suddenly. As he stood there, a guard and a group of the strongest men approached him. These were the personal guards of the Dermot family who wanted to punish Rick for daring to insult their master Raster and his brothers. Their goal was to delay Rick long enough so he would miss the exam and be expelled from the guild. Our weak hero was in trouble as these guards were much stronger than him, their strength nearly equal to that of B-rank adventurers, with the strongest guard being close to A-rank. Rick's fate seemed sealed, as it was impossible for him to face all these guards alone, especially since he hadn't even surpassed F-rank yet. But at that moment, members of the Orihalcon team arrived. 3 of them came to meet Rick, wondering why he was here and not at his exam. The guards were shocked to see Ashok speaking. One of them approached Ashok and warned him not to interfere. Rick, well aware of Ashok's strength, lied and told him that he was just training with the guards to improve his strength. Rick also begged their leader, "Please withdraw. Your lives are at stake here." But they ignored him and attacked Oric with a sword. However, the sword shattered against Ashok's steel-like body. Underestimating Ashok's strength, the guard attacked again, but Oric grabbed his hand with such force that he broke all his fingers before healing them with healing light. The other guards were even more shocked to see Ashok not only speaking but also using magic. One of the boys excitedly drew out his recently developed flaming cannon loaded with magic-infused lead stones, but the guards, failing to comprehend the situation, attacked recklessly. The boy eliminated them in seconds with his advanced weapon, and Rick worried that the guild's law might punish him for what Orihalcon's team was doing. One of the guards took a girl hostage, thinking she was just a small child. Rick warned him, "Stay away from her if you don't want to die." and Auric advised him to release her immediately. The girl, seemingly unconcerned about what was happening, thought the man was playing with her. When he treated her roughly, she became extremely angry and unleashed her hidden power, casting 7th level composite nature magic at just 10 years old. She was the strongest vampire known as the demon child of destruction, named Dracula. The boy was a half-dwarf, half-elf, despite his appearance, was over 50 years old, and the greatest weaponsmith in the world, named El Dwarf. As for Ashork, he possessed immense physical strength and intelligence that matched it, able to use every magic technique, earning the title Wise Beast, named Ashoric. All three were S-rank adventurers, and, along with Rionette, formed the strongest party on the continent, the Orihalcon Fist. The guard never imagined meeting these legends and decided to quit his job out of happiness and live the rest of his life peacefully. However, Dracula hadn't finished venting her anger and continued to attack the guards with her legendary magic. Rick decided to return to the guild for his exam, while Renee still held Fred, waiting for Rick to return safely. Fred believed Rick would never come back and would be killed by the guards. Suddenly Rick returned and Renee threw Fred aside. Rick was shocked by what Renee had done in that room. At that moment, Lynx arrived, severely injured. He told Rick that Raster had done this to him. He wasn't sick, but was attacked by Raster so he could be Rick's examiner and take revenge. Lynx revealed his dream of building a school for poor children who wanted to become adventurers. When he told Raster about this dream, Raster had beaten him, saying, "If children learn from someone like you, they'll end up worthless too. Old people like you are what make this world worse." Lynx was tortured and imprisoned in that room, so he asked Rick to withdraw from the test and avoid facing the arrogant Raster. But Rick was furious and forgot how weak he was. He wanted revenge on Raster immediately. Raster, who was waiting to get rid of Rick, had cast a terrifying spell, but Rick was not afraid at all and was filled with rage, ready to beat Raster up. And here we reach the end of the 2nd episode of this amazing anime. If this video gets more than 500 likes, the 3rd part will be released as soon as possible. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to appreciate my efforts. Peace!